Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Greg Furman and these are the market positions for November the 29th, 2017. Now our first trade for tonight is going to be in the Forex market. We're looking at the US dollar Mexican peso. Now what we're looking at here specifically is doing counter trend long positions. I'm not a fan, as many people will know, of trading off of overbought and oversold conditions unless I have something from VantagePoint to assist with that. So in this particular case, we can see that I've drawn a line here just above 1840, and I'm looking at the neural index turning higher after a series of down days after our triple EMA cross, but we've got our medium term crossing our long-term predicted difference. Basically what that's telling me is the medium term downtrend is weakening against the longer term downtrend, and basically the medium term trend is starting to turn back up. Now that is consistent with an oversold condition right here. So that meets the criteria for me to take a counter trend long position. So when I'm looking at this here, guys, it's very important that we identify where this crossover took place from VantagePoint and where the predicted RSI is. So essentially with that area down around just above 1840, we're looking for a retracement back towards 1881 or 1867.58. So when I look at this further, I also want to see how my short-term crossover is doing. So when I look at my short-term crossover, we can assess that the blue line is starting to into a squeeze play where it's getting closer to that black line. When we look at our medium-term crossover or our longer-term crossover, the same situation. The further the blue line moves away from the black line, the more likely it is to retrace. And I will point out here too that a lot of this move lower has been caused, by that rhetoric from the Fed last week that I discussed in this week's Forex Weekly Outlook. Very important fundamental here that I feel the market's misinterpreted what the Fed has said, or they're simply not buying into the snake oil that the Fed is currently selling. So the distance here between this blue line and black line is excessive, and it's happened very quickly. So often this often happens after an announcement like the Federal Reserve or the non-farm payroll. So we know exactly where we want to put our stops here on this particular trade. We want all stops below the 1840 level to give this trade a chance to develop. So from here, all we have to do is then utilize the daily report. So with that close of I believe it's 1853.13, I'm correct, we're looking for a minor pullback, guys, to 1848.98. We're then going to target 1861.68. But again, 1881 is still on the table here if this continues to correct. Now, if we can break above that area, we can look to potentially add further longs, but part of our upside pivot areas here, to understand where I'm getting my upside targets from, we use our triple EMA cross, and then we bring our vertical line over like this, and you can see 1881, 1867. These are upside pivot areas for me, but in this particular case, on counter trend long positions, they are potential exit points. So that's our first trade for tonight. Now our second trade for tonight is going to be, or tomorrow depending on when you're watching this, is going to be in the US consumer non-cyclical sector. We're looking at the Colgate-Palmolive, the CL stock. Now what we're looking at here is we've had a corrective move on this. We've moved up, we've paused here, we failed at 74, and then we've had what appears to be a corrective move lower. Now our main indicators here, our neural index is turned higher, but again we can see that this crossover on the medium term crossing over the long term predicted difference combined with the neural index, and we've closed above this critical pivot area of 72.25. We're closing at 72.76. So we're not closing above this by a lot, but it's telling us that we're probably moving higher. Our predicted RSI is coming in at 62.6, basically a trending move. Guys, we saw this exact same trade from VantagePoint last month. Now, it took a little bit longer to develop, but with our neural index and the break of the RSI, we can connect the dots here, and it still led to a pretty strong move from almost the exact same level, which is kind of funny, is right around this 72 area, and we shot up to 74. So the stock markets are still pretty strong, but there is rumors going around potentially North Korea fired another ballistic missile. This could create havoc in the equity markets. Now, not a guarantee that it will, but it could. So we have to be careful of that. But the main thing is we do have continuing strength here, and we've got the confidence of the VantagePoint indicators to tell us that this stock is likely going higher. So when we look at our individual crossovers, we can see our short term is quite good. Our medium term is just crossing the trigger, and that's consistent with the medium term predicted difference. So you can see where that crossover is actually coming from. And our long term crossover still in the negative here below the zero line. You can see that crossover, but it's starting to turn higher also. So from here, guys, all we have to do is go into that daily report with that close of 72.76. For tomorrow, we're looking for a minor pullback to 72.45. We then target up to 72.76. But ultimately, guys, that's an intraday play. We're looking for a move back up to these most recent swing highs in and around the $74 per share mark. Once we overtake, or if we overtake that level, we can then target the 76 area. Now, when I'm drawing in my trend line here, we want to make sure we understand where that comes in. We want to make sure that all stops are below 71.50. We want to give this trade a chance to develop, but we don't want a huge stop on here, guys. If this fails at this level, the stock is likely going lower, and that could be triggered by what's happening right now in North Korea. So that's a wild card that we simply have no control over. So with that said, these are the market positions for November the 29th, 2017.